Thank you for pressing play. The content you're about to hear is all produced by The Coffee Show, a weekly radio program.
Welcome to The Coffee Show world of content. That guy over there is Randy.
Hi, and he's Keith.
Hi. The Coffee Show is a weekly radio program of extemporaneous comedy and great music that we have been doing for a very long time.
Since 1992, even.
Before our voices changed, all the rest of our worlds changed.
Keith, I'll tell you what hasn't changed, and that's that the whole time we've been on KGLT, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a non-commercial radio station. So as part of it, you won't hear advertisements, but you may hear us reference specific underwriters on the show.
That's right. They do the good work supporting that great nonprofit venture.
Without further ado, please enjoy this week's content, this week's issuance, this week's utterances.
Enjoy this week's extemporaneous offering. Please don't listen at 1.5.
Not for the weak, not for the meek, for the men in fedora hats. Randy and Keith, Wednesdays at 3, tune it in KGLT. Coffee Show fans apply. Coffee Show fans inside.
Happy Waitsgiving, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our friends beyond the gender binary. It is sometime in the 3 o'clock hour here on KGLT, KGLZ, and KGLT.net, and that means it is time for The Coffee Show, a very special coffee show with me and my friend Randy. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Keith. I brought a tureen of gravy. It's not really a tureen. It's a crinkled felt hat that I have turned upside down filled with gravy.
Why is it a crinkled felt hat?
For Waitsgiving.
Is it because I used the tureen of gravy to hold the cookies from the cookie jar that I broke? And
Yes.
then
Those cookies were disgusting, by the way. They're just soaked with gravy.
there's a lot of gravy in our household is what Randy and I are trying to tell you. Randy and I live together in a house like the Muppets.
If you're making a checklist of things you can dunk cookies into, milk gets a green check mark, gravy gets a red X.
Yes. Gravy gets a blue check mark. Topical. Folks, this is a very special show this week. One of my favorite records of the last 5 years has been the amazing album Waitsgiving by Fishboy. All of the songs on this record interweave together to tell a story set in Denton, Texas about creativity, about the way art inspires other people, inspires artists themselves. It's a beautiful record that's happy and sad and wonderful, and I've been wanting to play it in its entirety for you, and what better day to do it than today, the 17th of May, which is, as every year, the actual Waitsgiving holiday that Fishboy invented.
Coincidence? Probably not. Kismet? Maybe.
Kismet, yes. You will also be treated to an interview that I conducted with Eric Michener, who himself is the band Fishboy. It's a lot of fun. We talked for an hour or more, so we'll figure out a way to get you that longer interview later. You will just have to wait. That's how it goes.
You know, I bet Fishboy is happy to have had this experience being interviewed and having the album played. But you know why Fishboy is sad?
No, why?
Because Fishboy is too young to be served at program underwriter Neptune's Brewery.
Despite the fact that he is a fellow denizen of the deep, Neptune does not allow him into the bar.
You look a little young there, Fishboy. Got any ID?
Yes, Neptune guards the door with his forked trident. Oh, not so fast there.
I like that Neptune is, he's the king of the ocean, and he's obviously set up this brewery, but he also likes to check the IDs at the door.
He's a hands-on god.
He sure is.
So let's, without any more ado, adjourn to the first part of my interview with Eric Michener of Fishboy, and then you will be treated to some great songs from Waitsgiving. I wasn't going to do a big formal introduction, so...
let's don't do it.
Let's jump right into it then. Is there a genesis to the name of the band Fishboy?
You know what? That is an interesting question, because there really isn't. It was the first name I thought of when I was in junior high and started this project. But it's such a common question over the years that I created a fake answer for the first couple of newspaper interviews that I did. And that fake answer is that I was on a field trip in middle school to an aquarium, and I grabbed a fish out of an aquarium tank and ate the fish and was relentlessly taunted by my classmates, and the news came out, and it was a big deal, and I was branded as Fishboy. And so I told this story to a couple of newspapers, and those newspapers were cited on Wikipedia, and now it's just the truth.
Good enough. We'll print the legend as much as anything else.
Right. Yeah, no, it was a thing that I wrote on my first cassette tape. And here we are, 25 years later.
That's exactly how it sticks. We started calling this The Coffee Show by accident 31 years ago, so who knows? You're trapped with a name. You're saddled with it.
Exactly.
I started listening around the time you did an album called An Elephant, a concept album about Thomas Edison being haunted by the ghost of Topsy the elephant. He electrocuted
Right.
during the current wars with Tesla.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
after An Elephant, you did Art Guards.
Art
which is
Guards.
sort of about people with non-standard professions and goals in their lives, I think.
Sure. Artists, different artists with different trajectories and people struggling with art and in various different ways. The goal was to have each one have a different art form.
Mm-hmm. Yes. From a fast food critic to a person who guards the art at the museum, per the title
Right.
of the album. It culminates in a song that brings all of these characters together in one place. You generally work in sort of concept albums. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I went to film school here in Denton, and upon graduation decided that I would probably never be able to convince an entire crew of people to make a movie for me. But what I could do was write an album worth of songs and in my bedroom and create stories that way. So essentially, I like storytelling, and I have the gift of songwriting and the ability to execute stories in that fashion. So I sometimes shy away from terms like concept album or rock opera because it often has a lot of weight given to it from the concept albums and rock operas that have come throughout music history. And I'm not necessarily inspired by any of those. I'm just writing what I want to hear, right? And what I want to hear is storytelling in my own form and fashion. In 97, I was walking to work, tripped on a plaque, and looking back, I saw the date of my birth, a time capsule absent of an opening date. Just a burial time, and at the bottom underlined the word wait. So I took myself down to City Hall to get some education, information, making sense of it all. City Hall passed a law that it'll never be raised, and every 17th of May is now a citywide holiday. And on Wade's Giving Day, the red lights never change. There's a big parade that just sits in the shade, and then the Grand Marshal stands, signals to the band, and they play. We are always waiting, hoping, praying for a day that may not come, and with a little patience, contemplation, we may find we have enough. So tell your mom and dad, cancel all the plans they had, and come out and play. We are always waiting, hoping, praying for a day that may not come, and with a little patience, contemplation, we may find
on an everything bagel. I'm not an adult, but I'm not a teenager no more. And I work at a store with records and books. I often perform. You should come take a look, but you can't take a look. The band's on a break. The time that we took was specifically taken for waiting on a great idea. I am waiting on the perfect idea. Air conditioning, ice cream sandwich, something so perfect you don't understand how it sits out in front of you, waiting to grab from the yard. And I'm bad at guitar, but I think that's okay, 'cause the better you are, the less room in your brain, and the room in your brain needs plenty of space to optimally function with time that was given for waiting on a great idea. I was waiting on the perfect idea. It was Saturday that I found a tape on the ground of a diary. Sister made everything she'd seen that day while listening. It was so inspiring. I took it home. Melody, harmony, a symphony. It came to me, and within a week and a day, eagerly I put my songs to tape. And from a countertop display, I sold all 12 at work that day. I will admit, it's beautifully lame, the time that I spend waiting for something to say it to no one, say it again. I'm not alone, I'm just sitting here patiently waiting on a great idea. I am waiting on the next idea. I am waiting on a perfect idea. Because as hard as I try, you can't find a moment. I can't carve out the time to polish your craft and delivery dry. So dictate a diary. I'll talk into a mic, describing your path, which I'll adapt onto the stage. Choreograph the downtown route I take. Pecan, elm, hickory, locust, pecan, elm, oak. The limousine I drive, a gift from Grandpa, and packages climb up to the roof. Each afternoon I spy a man on the corner who is scratching his thigh with a grapefruit spoon, which he will use to dig. And soon I turn the corner, he's gone from view. Another day on the route, another tape I make with the tales I'll use. From pecan, elm, hickory, locust, pecan, elm, oak. Pecan, elm, hickory, locust, pecan, elm, oak. Sister at the register who's selling books and records with a special order brought into the store each day. We take the limousine in late 2003 to elementary, sing, dance on the way, and now that memory I save inside an 1/8-inch TDK before the memory it fades. A chocolate limo melts to beige if every day from the mundane I see one dance that I could make. Then when my chance is there to take, I'll put my opus on the stage. Oh sister, if you write the songs, I'll find the feet to dance along. And with opening curtains drawn back, a chorus sings triumphantly. Pecan, elm, con L-O.
The first three songs on the album Waitsgiving by Fishboy, the first Waitsgiving, Greatness Waitress, and the song you just heard, Driver Choreographer. We will be featuring the rest of the album and some more of my interview with Eric Michner of Fishboy in just a bit. But first, Randy, I need to know, what is this summer's fashion forecast?
Keith, it's not my responsibility to always inform you what the summer's fashion forecast is, but obviously it's going to be umbrellas. Just the top part of the umbrella, somehow stapled to an outfit, not the whole handle and or hook of the umbrella.
So, Bumbershoots out, umbrellas in.
Absolutely. And parasols, let's not even talk about parasols.
Don't even talk to Randy about your parasols until he's had his coffee from program underwriter Ghost Town Coffee Roasters.
I could really dunk a cookie into a tureen filled with coffee right now.
Better than gravy.
So much.
My hat is filled with coffee, but again, that's just another unfortunate accident in my life.
You're just out of containers to fill with coffee, and this is coffee that you don't want to throw out.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's like the old Bert and Ernie sketch about wearing a pot on your head as a cowboy hat, tracing it all back to a broken cookie jar.
I mean, it's better than no hat, right?
Exactly.
It's got a handle if you need to tip it to a passerby in respect.
Ma'am?
You can hang it on the wall with the included little loop on the handle. It's great. Got all kinds of options there.
Tons.
You need to knock out a baddie in a bar fight. You don't have to smash a bottle over his head. You can just take off your hat and hit him with it.
Tiny chance it might be a little more bulletproof than the traditional Stetson made of felt.
Or you can take the long play, and whenever your enemy that you're trying to do away with, you can just cook them some food in it, and the nonstick surface inside will just flake off into their food long term, giving them all kinds of problems.
Slowly kill them. I don't know how you got Teflon back in cowboy times, but you're well done, partner.
Well, Keith, where I'm going, I didn't need roads.
Oh, gotcha.
If I'm going back in time, I'll be sure to take a slice with me from program underwriter Columbo's Pizza and Pasta.
Where we're going, we don't need roads, but we do need grated Parmesan and red pepper flakes.
Yep. And if you have an old-timey enemy, you can put pepper flakes in the pan, and just when he gets too close, you just throw the whole pan into his eyes.
Essentially, how I try to approach songwriting is like setting up an expectation, and on the first listen, subverting that expectation to where something catches you off guard and you think, well, that's interesting. And then by maybe the third listen, you're like, well, of course, that's how it should go, Of course, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think to me, that's like perfect songwriting. Perfect songwriting is where I'm surprised by it the first couple times, and then I cannot hear it any other way.
There's a sequence in Snow Cone Creator where, as he is making a flavor for each song he hears on this radio station, you have him reference the songs through like these oblique takes on the lyrics. I was listening to the local station when the singer asked if it might be much nicer to be older, which is
wouldn't it be
by
nice,
the Beach Boys, and you just so don't put a fine point on it, and it makes it feel like he, and therefore you by extension, you probably have, and therefore he by your creation have like really dug into what the songs are about. The singer asked if we could shout a little louder.
Right. Which
Isley
is
Brothers.
Shout by the Isley Brothers. Right. I wrote that line like years before I had that song. And I would perform that line, that first line, which is, it's like, I was listening to the local station when a singer, he asked if we could try and shout a little louder.
Yeah.
Right. Just that part. I had that probably before for a year before I tried to start writing the song, and I would sing that at shows, and as if I were like a stand-up trying to practice a bit. I would say, "Hey everyone, I'm working on this song, but only have one line," and I would sing that part. And just thinking like, there's so many sub rhymes and stuff in that. I was like, I can never finish that song. I will never be able to like create a whole song with that. And then I got stuck in the car for going on a commute for 2 hours a day. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and write this song. And what I ended up doing was like recording it on notes in my phone, and I would just try and get one little line every day on a car ride, and it almost became like grinding out like a platforming video game. Like you're like grinding out like a really hard 8-bit video game, and it's like, let's just get a little bit further. And then when I would like die, I would be like, let's start over and just try and do it. And the song eventually became this kid stuck inside a little snow cone stand, trying to figure it out, trying to grind it out, like I was trying to grind out the song inside my little car stuck in traffic. And so the song goes on, and it has that very overly wordy, very fast thing. And when you get to the chorus, I'm just exhausted, right? And the chorus is just, oh my God, I lost my train of thought, right? And that was very natural because I was grinding out the lyrics just like this kid was grinding out. So it became this very coincidental, very, very situational thing where one thing was infected by the writing, was infected by the situation, and vice versa. And when I got to that section where I was like, okay, he needs to start referencing the songs and the flavors that he's making, then I'm like, I don't want to just say the song. I want to like kind of reference it so that people have to figure out what song I'm talking about. So I say a submarine tune, banana pineapple, which is like, oh, yellow submarine, yellow fruits, got it. And then I say Sleepy Jean, coffee dreamsicle, and it's like, oh, that's the Monkees, right? It's Daydream Believer. Anyway, the end of the story, I realized where I was going with this. Waitsgiving comes out. It's like inauguration day. Get into my car, I turn on Kuzu 92.9, which is the 5 Mile radio station that inspired the 5 Mile radio station in the album, right? I turn it on, Isley Brothers Shout, right after I watched the Biden inauguration. And I was like, this is the first time I've ever heard this on the local radio station. I manifested this moment. And like, no one else will appreciate this. I tweeted out, I just manifested something insane. No one will understand it if I explain it now.
And then you went and got a snow cone, I assume?
Yes.
Sure.
Sure.
I was raised in smoke as a kid. In the barbecue shack my dad's dad built with him, and every afternoon sauce from Archen's dripped on the patio. Dad sang while prepping the ribs. My son, every step adds up in the long run. So I set in place as I grew. I planted projects that patiently bloomed. I would paint patrons with barbecue, sculpted our smoker, you know her as Piggy Sue. My love, she's got a smokestack stuck in her lungs. She's got a quote smack clear across her front. Every step adds up in the long run. And in 20 years, word got out. My art covered the shack, now a house. Best in state till the morning we found the building had burned to the ground. It sucks losing something you love. Should add up, I'm not sure it does. I'll do the math, waiting for the long run. from the ash, fresh coat of pink, garden hose bath. Put her on wheels, rolled her out back, then went to work on a snow cone shack. My son will ask about a song I once sung, and with a purple stain on my tongue. Every step adds up in the long run.
They're not ready. You can sell a coin.
You don't have to win. You don't have to play. You don't have to believe the ones who tell you that it's a game. It's a daily choice that you choose to make. If you're waiting on someone to love you, you don't have to wait. When I was young, I played the bass. I joined up with a band, recorded some jams, and destroyed the tapes. We said, what's the use? No attention's paid. To my wife, my son, my grandkid, don't make the same mistake that I did. If no one hears, that don't mean a song shouldn't be sung. Oh, for 40 years, the same songs have been stuck on the tip of my tongue. And I sing them now while I'm digging graves. You should see the machine that the graveyard gave me. I call it the candy crane. We walk past funerals on my lunch break. To my grandson working the snow cone stand, swear to thee now, raise up your right hand, and if no one hears, that don't mean a song shouldn't be sung. And if no one cares, that only means you can sing out whatever you want. And if ever you get where you can't hear your thoughts, well now scream to yourself at the top of your lungs. You don't have to win. You don't have to play. my beard is gray, but I can play a decent solo. I haven't tried it since a year ago. Last May, in my practice space, I walked the symbol down with sterno. Just a tiny little pyro technical display. The stand fell to the ground, and the lot burned down. Okay. And here is my advice. Patience may be nice, but wisdom don't always come with age. I was listening to the local station when a singer he asked if we could try and shout a little louder. I craned up my neck, yelled at the weather. It looked like the spring, felt like the summer. I raced back inside to try out a flavor based on the song heard on the player. Place down a block of ice on the shaver, raise up the syrup, mix together and pour the creation on the other. Find a name, move on to another. Glance out the window for my grandfather, rinse and repeat the beat undercover. 100 flavors, 7 hours. Though I am tired, it doesn't matter. I am creator, I am inspired forever and ever and ever and ever. And oh my God, I lost my train of thought. A snow cone thaws. It's here and then it's not. If it's my job to man this stand, I will gladly spend my day creating cones for every song the radio plays. Oh, I'm not graced with synesthesia, just impatience to make great. My father made art like my grandfather. I'm trying real hard to get a little better. The way that I'll start to get a little better is part by part, little by my calculation. The combination of local station and inspiration will equal greatness if I'm patient. Here are a few things that I created, best I could do before it turned noon. A submarine tune, banana, pineapple, and 3 I believe I heard Sleepy Jean. In turn it led me to coffee, dreamsicle, but the cone of the day came from a tape. The DJ explained she bought it that day from a counter display. It was about grapefruit spoons, so I used grapefruit juice and syrup infused with flowers. My grandfather pulls the cup back from his mouth and he says to me, oh my God, you don't have to try so hard. An awkward pause. You're great the way you are. A flock of birds dock on the power lines a block away. We shut down the stand early and watch the sunset fade, and toast our styrofoam to yet another brilliant day. Making snow cones, snow cones. I was listening to the local station when a singer, he asked if it would be much nicer to be older. Well, I don't think things can get much nicer, and I'm old enough as is.
4 more songs from Fishboy's Waits Giving album. We started with Barbecue Artist, then you heard Bass Digger, Pyrotechnic Geriatric, and Snow Cone Creator closed out that bank. Celebrating this May 17th is, of course, Waits Giving, as it is every year, playing the album in its entirety. And I'm speaking to Eric Michener of Fishboy in a pre-recorded interview, and I'm speaking to my friend Randy live right now.
Yeah, this is also like an interview if you want to treat it that way. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, Randy, what's your favorite cheese?
My favorite cheese is the one I get on top of the meal. I have to bring the cheese myself, but I put it on top of the meal that I get at program underwriter Whistle Pig Korean. Fresh, authentic Korean food with vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free options for takeout. I just like to get the vegan stuff and then add cheese.
You're a man of many complicated motives. That's what I like about you.
No, it's just the one motive. It's just all cheese.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah and I, after years of being in living in another city, finally got a chance to eat at Whistle Pig Korean this last weekend on a visit to Bozeman, and it was even better than we remembered. We got to say hi to Ross, the co-owner, who with his wife, Chef Emma, have crafted one of my favorite restaurants. Before we go, Randy, I want to complete this interview. Of your influences, who would you say are your 3 biggest influences?
In any specific realm or just anything in general?
The heights of which you've ascended as a creative person and human. Yeah.
All right. I'll start with Ray Bradbury.
Ah, wonderful.
I'll also say, boy, have you put me on the spot?
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's what I do. I ask the hard questions here on the coffee show.
And that's my one influence.
Okay, Ray Bradbury. That's great. That's why. I remember it because that's why you went through that giant wall-sized TV into a Velt and got eaten by a lion. I remember that.
You know, it
distinctly.
happens. It happens to the best of us.
Something an unexpected emotional song for me is like girls just want to have fun, right? The subtext for me is like, why can't these girls just have fun? What is stopping them? And it's like, it's deeply emotional for me. It's like, this is such a nice pop song, but I'm like, there is a weird sadness to that song.
Yeah. Her dad is really,
for some reason,
Captain Lou Albano is really keeping her down. He just will not let her live her life. Yeah, when are you going to live your life right? She's like rebelling against everything. It's just not a punk rock song where that comes from. Like, my favorite band is They Might Be Giants. You know, obviously I'm a huge nerd, as you can tell from having spoken to me for a brief amount of time. And, their songs often have these very sinister sort of undertones underneath very catchy melodies, but in this very odd erudite way that I connected with a little bit of your music as well. Not that I think necessarily they were an influence, but that those are similar types of strategies in songwriting, I think.
Well, my friend Ryan was talking on a live stream about, the subtext of that song, Dr. Worm by They Might Be Giants, how being in a band, you want to present yourself as this thing, and this literal worm, right, as like trying to pretend that he's this doctor and he wants to show off on the drums. And there's all of this deeply real subtext to this very silly song.
Yes.
And he says, the line is someday someone will call me by my stage name, right? So at the end of the song, it's no one is even calling you Dr. Worm.
Yes.
Dude, this whole song was a front for you to try and
convince people to
show off being this expert drummer. And I know I'm reading a ton into this, but that's what a very simple line can do, and that's what they achieved.
He's also a worm. He's
also a literal
worm. The drums
worm.
are the least likely instrument for a worm to have any type of mastery at.
Right. But he somehow pulled it off. He can do the solo.
And he wants people to know, he wants people to tell him if they think he's getting better on the drums. He just wants to improve and have an acknowledgement of improvement. Yeah, things like that are great. Those are the weird little subtle things that I just adore, and what I adore about your music and Waits Giving in particular.
I was 33 in the 70s when I killed my career, writing melodies for nobody I had filled. 17 years if a tree falls in the woods. Was there ever a tree there at all? The analogy botched in my practice garage. Bandmates stare up at the wall. I clarify, if no one is listening, I've got a plan where we bury our last album under a 2-foot plaque on the town square, and we'll play one final concert. Say that we'll rise up someday. I hung press releases, pestered baristas, but in the end nobody came. We dig any way that we could to move on for good. The leftover merch lit up like firewood. My drummer decides to start limousine driving. The bass built a barbecue shack in his old neighborhood, and where we once stood it still sits there today. A time capsule plaque with my firstborn's birth date and the word wait. I was 53 in the 90s when my daughter found the plaque. The discovery was embarrassing. I held back, so proud as the founder of the town's first Waitsgiving Day. She asked for an anthem. I sat down and wrote one, the last song that I ever made. And lately I'm found jogging downtown, stopped at the plaque where I'm scratching the ground with a grapefruit spoon. And then one afternoon, a song on the radio calls out my digging somehow. And a track after that is a song I once sang about the long run, so I run away. Past the stand with the snow cones and hear my old bass players say that I don't have to wait. Now at 73, I ask humbly in my garage if you'd all agree to form a team and take back the album I lost. If a tree falls in the woods, it might sound like one last final plan. Naysayers will say you can't take back the past, but in this case I think that we can. Across the gap in my bottom two front teeth of morning, I try to get my album back, the one I lost so long ago. And though the crew was briefed and prepped, nervousness ran through our bodies. The shade parade had stopped its step. I put for the real action. DJ swap the record out and trigger the next phase of Operation Last Waitsgiving Day. The limousine lurched into place, followed by a flatbed trailer. Piggy Sue and Candy Crane together formed a brand new float. The smoker and digger of graves, beautifully they weld together. A pig with several scorpion traits, whose stomach started belching smoke. Father and son reunited as one, piled the fire until the wood pile was gone. Smoke billowed out on the lawn, hiding the digger from all lookers on. Grandson looking on, snow cone creator, stationed to look out for oncoming danger. Instead, inspired to make a new flavor. When danger approaches, no one is noticing. Out to the early end of all at stake. Ha la la la, last Waitsgiving Day. And then out of the limo, the geriatric pyro leapt onto the smoker's float, whose smoke was slowly dissipating. Oh, I must confess, it was I who made the mess. I burned your building down that night, but I'm here today to make it right. His symbol lit with flames, which brought more eyes that way. So the delivery driver raced. She grabs the mic from off the stage, and she cues the Greatness Waitress band. Play our new grapefruit spoon jam. I'll teach the audience to dance. And the diary she once dictated, now a mass coordinated dance that somewhat went this way. Up, down, dig in the ground. Up, down, dig in the ground. Up, down, dig in the ground. Up, down, dig in the up, down, dig in the ground. 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 At my feet, the hole now complete. I pull back the time capsule box and I turn to the street. Before I can make my retreat, a voice in the air, it calls out to me. I look up to see the Grand Marshal say she'd like for us all to give her dad thanks. It's my daughter, she wants me to come on the stage. Box in my hand as the audience cheers. I give my girl a hug, tears roll down my face. I hand over the album and I say happy birthday. She hands it to the DJ and the DJ presses play on the soundtrack to the last Waitsgiving Day. And in the box, a letter dedicates. This one is for those of us who wait.
70s Singer and The Last Waitsgiving, two of the three final tracks of the album by Fishboy, Waitsgiving, that we've been featuring all show. You probably have caught on to that by now, but I guess if you're just joining us, that's what's happening.
Maybe, Keith, maybe they've gained so much appreciation for Fishboy that they'd like to express that appreciation long term by dedicating a tattoo from program underwriter Bozeman's Tattoo Alley.
Oh, Randy, sorry that we didn't do as much guffawing around as we normally do this week. Thank you for indulging me. I know that you had a lot of great improvisational comedy planned out for this week.
I did, and I did it anyway. I didn't record it or put it on the show, but I have to get that out of my system. I have to flush it weekly, or else it just builds up and I explode. So I had to do it.
It wouldn't be any good next week. We can't save it. You got to start fresh and clean, renewed each time.
I did 240 minutes just on xylophones.
You know, I have had to edit some of the, I edit all of the coffee shows post-production, and I think there has been a time where you have done at least that amount of time on xylophones.
I have a lot of material on xylophones. I have a lot of thoughts on xylophones.
It is the only example when you're doing an alphabet children's book or song
Right.
about the alphabet. X is always xylophone. They never throw it in for...
Sometimes they'll do X-ray, and I think it's just because it won't confuse kids and say Z for xylophone. I know that one. It's Z. It's X for X-ray, kids, which allow you to see the skeleton that's inside of you trying to leap from your body. Terrifying.
Always good to think that there's a skeleton in you.
Because there is. If you have to reassure yourself, it's just a smile away.
On that cheery note, it's about time to wrap up this week's coffee show. I have a little bit more of an interview with Fishboy. We'll find out. Thank you so much to Eric Michener for sitting down with me earlier this week and giving me a huge amount of his time. What you heard this week is just a small amount of our fantastic conversation, and I will get an entire long interview edited together soon, and we'll tell you about it where you can find it in next week. I will, of course, post about it on our Facebook page at facebook.com/coffee show.
I can't wait to hear the whole thing. I'm excited. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the parts with you in this week's show. I haven't heard those yet.
I'm excited to hear the 240 minutes about xylophones. Didn't record it.
You didn't record it. Well, I'm sure we can start anew next week when I say he's the skeleton inside Randy.
And he's the meat riding the skeleton around Keith.
Gross and snappy catchphrase. It has become one of my favorite records of all time. It's such a profound, to me, statement with a thing I struggle with as a writer and creative person about the reason to do anything creative. You have so many songs that meditate on lines like, if no one's listening, that just means you can sing as loud as you want. Is there a reason to do something even if nobody cares? You know, not just that you have to have patience to have an impact, but also that, you know, there is value in it. These things come together and that we're never even sure about the impact we sort of have on the people around us, that it was such a profound idea to me, because you can get so caught up in this idea of, well, I would like, you know, 1 million spins on YouTube or whatever the heck, you know, TikTok famous or touring the world, you know, and there always has to be that spark of why you want to create something, why you want to express yourself and find a value in that, absent of the responses of others.
Right. And that song Bass Digger that you're referencing, you know, I try and think of all the different ways people can be dealing with patience and impatience. And on that one, I came up with the idea of people waiting around for reasons to make their thing, waiting for an audience, which is something that I have struggled with, and I'm sure everyone struggles with. It's just like, why am I doing this if I don't have an audience? And the answer is like, you don't have to wait for an audience, right? And that's a form of self-imposed patience, right? You don't need to wait. You should do it because it's the right thing to do, right? You need to be able to express yourself with your art and do it for own self-fulfilling reasons and all the great reasons that there are to make art. You don't need to wait for an audience, which is, you know, something that this bass player who is now in his 70s has learned because he saw his best friend, his musician, give up music because he couldn't wait for the audience, right? Couldn't wait for that reason. So he's sitting there as an old man trying to tell his grandson, like, I'm like choking myself up. It's like, if you don't have to wait. He's trying to tell his son, like his grandson, the regrets he had in life. You know, don't wait for an audience.
It has one of the best lines in the record, and one of the best lines I think that you don't need an audience to be kind and brave. To think of it in terms of expressing yourself as being both an act of bravery, you know, which speaks to sort of your ego, and then also, but that you have to be kind at that same point, that you want to be, that you have to respect the other people, that you have to have this sort of other like empathy in your creativity.
Right.
That really moved me. And as a person who has been a volunteer DJ for 3/4 of his lifetime and has been 31 years on this radio station, the song about a volunteer DJ whose whole life is digging up weird records and finding things to play for people, and it resonated so hard, even in the sort of meta context of your record, of feeling like a person who found this album that moved me so greatly. I have, on days where I've been struggling with how to be creative and what I want to do with myself and where I would like things to go, I've been moved to tears multiple times, you know, listening to songs like Bass Digger or Volunteer DJ, a Barbecue Artist. There are things throughout, you know, where these people express these melancholies, but then this like sort of joyous coming together at the end of this. You absolutely can. Your
Right.
album is a license to everyone who wants to do something to express themselves, to just say, you must.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I mean they still move me as well.
Massively important record to me, and like a huge,
you.
significant part of my life, and honestly one of my favorite albums I've ever heard, and why I'm so happy to be featuring it this week.
Well, thank you for featuring it.
Yeah, I'm just so happy it worked out this day.
I don't know if I said this online, but I'm glad that I made some sort of yearly event for it, right? Because that was kind of the thought when I wrote that first song was, I'm going to put a real date and then I'll have a reason to post something when the date comes around. And then because the album was released before shows came back in the pandemic, right? By the way, this whole album was recorded at home in the pandemic.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you achieved this under those circumstances.
I mean, that's a whole other story, but
Yeah.
So I was like, well, the first show will celebrate Waitsgiving. People will be outdoors and we'll gather around the Denton Courthouse and I'll play the songs acoustically. And now it's just like, let's just keep doing it every year. And it really feels like an album it would be okay if it was like my last album, or if it was some sort of like infinitely growing cult album, which I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it will be.
Manifest
but
it. You have to put it out there.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of however far it goes, and I'm happy to keep sharing it forever because it ended up really, really great. I'm a volunteer DJ at a radio station whose transmission stretches only 5 miles. And though I agree the form's obsolete, I feel that I need to perform with style. Simultaneous playlists in a red spiral notebook of internet treasures and crate digging gems. And sad as it seems, they would feel more complete if I had both the time and the means to hear all that there is. But I may never know. No, I may never know. And my favorite album I found in the basement of a gently used bookstore, a local release. And 20 years since, I'm still not convinced that an album exists that means that much to me. They were mid-70s rockers, they vanished completely, but I own all of their records, the whole discography. And don't get me wrong, it's okay that they're gone, but I feel like they stopped before reaching their peak. And we may never know. No, we may never know. And in the bookstore last night, I saw the singer of the band stand in line. I must admit I didn't dare waste his time. I stood and watched as he was selling LPs to the registered
$50 at best. And a baby is crying in the back bedroom. I write in my notebook as she gets rocked to sleep. Someday you'll find the best songs of all time. May they be priceless and worthless, like all the best things